According to a new TSN article, Mike Matheson is one of the most likely defensemen to be traded soon in the NHL. Where could he land? And some Habs insiders have him fetching a first-round pick and even more. We'll be discussing the probability of Mike Matheson getting moved, plus a potential David Savard to the Maple Leafs trade. That's coming from us, but you're going to want to stick around for all these things on this episode of Habs Digest. And before we get into the video, guys, a quick reminder, I haven't shown this in a while, but 58% of you guys watching are not subscribed, and if you're part of that 58%. You love our daily Habs news. We're like 50 subs away from 9,000. Help us reach that goal. Help us reach 10,000. We'd really, really appreciate you. Before we get into the trade stuff, Jesse, just a quick note about Coach Marty talking about the team. And of course, the Habs lost 4-0 to the Kings. And if you're more interested in the trades, feel free to skip forward. It doesn't matter to us, but we'd love if you stuck around for this too. So let's have a look at this. Coach Marty said, quote, "If anybody doesn't know anything about the league and they watched that first period against the LA Kings, I don't think they would have guessed LA would be up 2-0, but that's just the game. And against good teams, you have to be opportunistic on your chances." And he's very right. Jesse, what I take away from this, and it's something that we've talked about a lot this season, is the Habs, while not always, there are definitely lots of periods of inconsistency and really, really lackluster periods. They've had stretches where they've looked as good as some of the best teams in the NHL, like that first period against LA, like that full game against Vegas earlier in the season. Like, what have you been happy with seeing from the Montreal Canadiens? Do you agree with Coach Marty that, like, this is something that we should seriously be celebrating?
It is true because it was on full display in the first period of that last game, and the big difference was that the Kings were just able to take advantage of those opportunities. It's a really fine line. It's easy to forget. We hit a couple posts, those shots going in. This is a different game that has different dynamics really early on. And just seeing that we really put up like a dud earlier, the Kings. So to have like such a good period like that where we are playing well, and even for a good portion of the second period, it's all about just putting it together. And it's kind of logical, right, Josh? If you think about it, it's like it's a young team. The rebuild is starting to advance. There's where you see when you start kind of taking those steps. You start doing one really solid period like they did. And then obviously the whole point is just to bring that to the full game. But then once you do, then you start being up with the top teams in this league.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's a world where after that first period, the Habs come out of it up 2-1. Let's say that Doughty weird goal doesn't go in, and let's say the Habs just go out and they score on a couple of those posts they hit. It's 2-1 coming after the first, and the team morale is going to be very different heading into the second period. So it's about those stretches. It's about putting them together consistently. But if you have periods like that, more often than not, you're going to come out on top, changes the morale of the team, changes how hard they play. So yeah, really, really good stuff from the Habs. But let's jump into the trade stuff. Now, this one is pure speculation, right? Well, David Savard could be moved. That's not necessarily speculation. That's actually been sort of the talk of the town for the Habs, not on this list that we'll talk about later, but something that we've kind of talked about. Now, he's actually not making the trip to Buffalo. Now, this is because of injury. We're not saying this is because of a trade. But, Jesse, one thing we've been discussing, and some other people out there, you might have seen on YouTube, you might have seen all over the news, is that the Maple Leafs have been looking for defensemen, specifically right-handed defensemen. Of course, they've been recently going after... Is that not working? Oh, I don't have... Oh, there we go. They've been going after Rasmus Ristolainen. Brad Treliving, their GM, has said, "We've investigated what the market is." Said on Wednesday after revealing that Klingberg will be out for the rest of the year. So they need a right-hand D-man, Jesse. And while Risto is a very interesting choice at his cap, whatever, that's fine. David Savard is a more budget-friendly option who will still eat some PK minutes, will block a ton of shots. Is he the best player out there? No, but he'll bring a lot of stability to a Leafs team that needs it. And I feel like this weirdly could be a great fit, as much as I typically don't necessarily like the idea of trading with Toronto.
Oh, Josh, this feels like such a Leafs move, but it would be maybe a smart one for them for this time. Instead of Klingberg, kind of replace him with more of a defensive guy, which you would get out of David Savard. And even though he's not the best all the time, we can't forget the heroic way that he went out, with his injuries, of just throwing himself in the lines of pucks left, right, and center like a total champ. So I think that's going to matter a lot for a team that's looking to get to the playoffs, that values that type of shot blocking, that type of defense that he can offer. And I think what helps kind of precipitate a trade like this as well is just the fact that we've shown that we can at least manage somewhat without one of our kind of veteran right-handed defenseman guys. So just the fact that these younger guys are now being able to take a step up, right? We got so many D-men. Obviously, Toronto needs one. It seems like kind of a logical sort of thing. I would prefer this option of like David Savard, like much over, let's say, like giving up on one of our young guys right away. Like, let's say like a Jordan Harris, right? Like how terrible would that be, Josh, to like trade somebody like him and then see him go to the Maple Leafs organization and just thrive and flourish and have to see him for the next 10 years playing for them? Like Savard I could handle, but not one of our younger D prospects.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you don't want your homegrown guy who you give up on early. It's like the thing is, Savard is what he is. We know what he is, and will he thrive in a different environment? Maybe, right, compared to what he's done in Montreal. But like, yeah, I mean, if you're trading with the Toronto Maple Leafs, which I feel like Kent Hughes is probably not inclined to do if he has the choice, you'd rather give up someone like Savard for sure. But again, this is pure speculation, but it just seems like kind of a good fit. What do you guys think? Do you think there's any world where this trade works out? I feel like the Leafs should be willing to pay a pretty penny for someone like Savard who can bring some stability to their organization. And yeah, let's just hope they don't try and go after any of our young guys. But we'll talk about a different Habs defenseman who actually is, by all accounts, on the trading block, apparently, according to TSN. So TSN released their list of top 20 trade bait targets. And of course, Sean Monahan's there, Jake Allen's there, Caden Primeau's there, all in the top 6. All those guys are in the top 6. But who comes in at number 20 but Mike Matheson? Right at the bottom of this top 20 list is Mike Matheson. Some Habs insiders have been talking about it. They said, would Habs fans be okay with the idea of trading Mike Matheson? Asked Mark Dumont. He's listed as TSN's trade bait board, but he also takes the bulk of the difficult assignments. He produces at a very good rate. A healthy return would be key. And then, of course, Marco D'Amico kind of comes in and says, like, after Dumont says maybe it'd be a late first, I think it'd be more than a first. His style and his offensive prowess with the Canadiens has been really amazing. But like you said, the equivalency is also ideal for Hughes. Prospect or young player versus the picks. But then D'Amico kind of says it should be more. The Canadiens are 6th to last in terms of goals for, and Matheson is still on pace for 57 points. And he's playing 24 plus minutes a night. He has the contract he has, which is not even $6 million a year. And a player of his ilk would be signing a $7 million deal on the market right now. It's no secret, Jesse, that he is outplaying his contract. On a good team with higher scoring, he'd probably be on pace for 65-ish points. I mean, it's hard to extrapolate that, but it sure seems like it. He is a power play guy. He's a great quarterback on the power play. He brings offense. He brings skating that a lot of teams really need. He'd be a difference maker on a good team right now. You got to think the return would be healthy for Mike Matheson if he were to be moved.
And rightfully so. I mean, 18 points right now in 26 games. Like, he's outscoring Sean Monahan right now. That being said, he has been on the ice for some goals against. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm not the only Habs fan that wishes that maybe sometimes he could keep the puck in at the blue line, especially on the power play.
Yep.
This is a defenseman who offers offense on a team that needs offense. So for me, that is very, very important. You know, not just that, but he's somebody that he's from Montreal, from the West Island. Culturally, he's a fit, just a great guy. This seems like, speaking of veteran defensemen, like kind of one of the guys that you do want to keep around. And you have to feel like once the young decor kind of grows around him, they could maybe help insulate him even more to give him more freedom offensively, which is almost scary to think about at this point, you know? So obviously we know Mike Matheson, he's been great since he's been here. You know, so for me, I'm in the same boat where it's like, I would really need to kind of like be blown away with the return to be able to make that type of move.
Yeah, I'm kind of on board of like, I don't want to move him because like for a lot of the reasons you cited, like, and he's a leader within the locker room. He's been playing really, really well for the Habs, and I think as they turn the corner, if you sign him to another decent deal whenever his contract is over, you can keep him around. Like, I don't see the need to move Mike Matheson. I was actually a bit surprised to see him there, but I'm sure a lot of teams are interested, and I'm sure that's why he's on this list. Like, he immediately improves any team's power play, right? He immediately comes in and brings a scoring punch from a defenseman that a lot of teams don't have, and there's a reason he's valuable, right? But at the same time, Jesse, like, if this were to be a trade that Kent Hughes was looking at, right? Let's say teams were offering, if I'm Montreal, I'm not accepting anything less than like a middle 6 level prospect or player and maybe some kind of draft compensation. I'm not saying a first and a middle 6 level player, but like if you're giving up Mike Matheson, the top defenseman on this team right now, a guy that can put up 60 points as a defenseman on a low scoring team, you better be getting something good in return. And like, I don't know, I just don't want another D prospect. I think draft and a top 6 guy or a middle 6 guy is something you need in a case like this.
Absolutely. I think you're right on, Josh. Like, we want to go for a forward. We got so many D prospects and we're really lacking in goal scoring and points, right? So you got to feel like if you're getting rid of that from Mike Matheson, you want to replace those goals, those points, you know, to this team. So that being said, you know, I'd be happy with it either being, you know, a prospect who really, you know, projects to be high up the lineup, or to be honest, somebody who's really producing right to really replace, the production that we are getting from Mike Matheson. I want to see somebody who could already score in this league that's a known commodity, because really Mike Matheson is so valuable for this team.
Yeah, he is. And again, he'd be valuable anywhere he goes. But like you said, man, the Habs just can't really score. He's part of the reason they're scoring as much as they are. So he's a guy I want to see stick around. And let us know what you guys think down below. Would you move Mike Matheson if the return was right? Or is he the kind of guy that you'd like to keep around, be an alternate captain maybe for years to come? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're pushing 10K subs, and we'd love if we could get there very, very soon. And each one of you people make all this possible. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.